This is a horror game podcast. It is meant for mature audiences. It may contain shocking revelations, violence, and sexual themes. Viewer discretion is advised. Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Thom Raley. The scenario is The Lesser Isle. It was written by David Gassaway, who is also our keeper of arcane lore. And this is episode 5. Our recap will be given by Gordon Lewis as his character, Spencer Blackwell. So without any further delay, let's begin our journey into the darkness. Gordon?
This recap will take the form of a journal entry by Spencer Blackwell. May 1925. We lost Meissner last night. Little shit started messing with something horrific. I don't want to think about it. Focus on the objective. Focus. It's time to leave. Got to get these people out of here. So the rest of this entry doesn't look like I'm losing it. Here's what happened. Team in the tunnels find an old stone covered in Phoenician. Multiple scratches through several attempts at the word. Found a pit full of flotsam and jetsam covered in a thick slime. Found Kleinschmidt's pocket watch. Apparently it had gone missing and no one noticed. Then the Temblor hit. Small fire, oil lamp that fell over, breaks out at base camp. Wasn't too much to handle and had it put out shortly. Team returns to the caverns when everything fell apart. I'm informed Meissner started raving in Phoenician. Something about a blue mother. And then, a massive slime monster eats him. Everyone at camp is in a panic. Theories abound. Meanwhile, I'm wondering if 303 is slow enough to even bother a jellyfish. Good thing the Webley is basically subsonic. Kleinschmidt's journal is found in Meissner's tent. Seems our missing people were part of whatever's going on here. Don't care. Time to leave.
Thank you, Spencer. As the conversation about returning to the caverns, looking forward to the festival in the village, who's in charge now that Meissner is a pile of jellied bones in a cave, there's another violent earthquake. Again, preceded by a sharp crack and then the rolling wave, deep, speaking of sonic, nearly inaudible groan of the earth, and some posts in the tents fall, some lamps fall over. Everyone has to brace themselves. The rumble moves out over the hills. You hear stones clatter off nearby hillsides. There isn't any need for panic, right? You can put out a small fire.
Thank God we're intense, not outside. I'm so surprised, though. Have any of the local buildings, the architectural, I'm suddenly at a loss for words. I'm so shaken by this earthquake. The archaeological ruins, have any of them been destroyed? Any of those big T's knocked over?
The nice thing about a multi-ton slab sitting on a multi-ton slab for thousands of years is that
Pretty stable.
They're pretty stable. If it hasn't fallen over by now, I mean, who knows? The caves seem to have some flexibility, so maybe it'll be undermined at some point, but no, there are clatterings of stones, and again, those are mostly from the regular hillside.
I wonder if our jellyfish friend is disturbed by this. That's why he's out. He's come.
It feels like feels more like hunger pains, frankly. Uh I'm going to go check on my equipment, but I'm suggesting we get the hell out of here tonight.
Spencer comes out of his tent already with all of his stuff in bags. And it's like,
Well,
everyone, get your shit. We're leaving.
well, why would we leave?
Why would you go back? Are you insane?
Well, I mean, it's what we're here for, isn't it?
This
It
is
feels
not what
like,
I signed up for.
well,
I agree.
I am all for pushing man's sum total knowledge of the universe, but not in a tunnel and not with whatever that was.
well, I mean, I'll have to go with the majority, but it's like climbing a mountain. If you get halfway up and then decide that it's raining and you want to go back, you've wasted all of your time.
It killed Meisner. How could you possibly want to go back in there?
Well,
I mean,
would it be different
ostensibly,
if,
it did us a favor, but Dr. Alvarado, I'll tell you what, you find me a way to kill this thing, and I'll go
Well,
with you into those
as I
tunnels.
said, fire will certainly keep anything alive at bay. Nothing wants to be burned.
Would it starfish, or what did you said it was a jellyfish of some kind,
Well,
right?
that's kind of what it looked like, yes.
Would it even have a concept of fire?
Well, what if you touch the fire to it? If it's able
The
to
last
sense
person who got
things.
that close is now jelly.
Yes, but he wasn't trying to do it. It was almost as if he was worshiping it or calling it from somewhere. It was very odd behavior for the man. Meisner certainly seemed like he knew more than what he was letting on. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Which is part of the reason why I want to leave, because I already know more than I want to.
And I
But
agree with you on this. And Kleinschmidt's journal, I think, reinforces what you're saying, Dr. Alvarado, that that Meisner knew more. But might I also remind you all that somebody else left and they disappeared? Where are we planning on going? The ship won't get here for what, 3 days?
To town is what I'm thinking. At least
Isn't that where Cooper or Copper went to town?
they were
And he
seen
disappeared.
passing through town, I thought. Like they were heading
Well,
elsewhere.
no one said that he left town.
Also true. No one's gone to search for him, as far as I know.
The two we know, from a reminder sort of thing, we do know that the cook and actually Copper did get Burroughs and left town, if we believe people.
well, weren't we also supposed to from Kleinschmidt's notes? Didn't he say that he realized there was something wrong with the doctor, and that the cook and Copper were going to get help?
Mm-hmm.
Look, perhaps we don't want to stay here, but if we go to the village, we can continue our observations and investigation from there. We don't have to stay here overnight. I do agree that might be dangerous if the jellyfish are out.
Roland, would you roll an idea check for me?
Sure.
I don't think we should go home. Not
As
yet.
a regular success.
Being a professional, you of course looked at official maps of the area before you got on a boat to come to this backwater. Given a reasonable estimate of the pace of 2 men and 2 burrows, Copper and Ramis, the cook, if they had gone for help to the next village and found help, whatever Copper was looking for, then they might reasonably be returning tomorrow. They haven't been gone so long that they're lost cause.
So returning to the camp or returning to town, or either.
Returning to, I mean, the walk from camp to town is relatively trivial. It's about half an hour or so.
All right. And I'll relay all that. I mean, it is possible that Copper and Ramiz are they could
on their
show
way
up.
back.
Yes.
Well, I mean, think of it this way. We went down into a cave. What if it was a bear? And the bear attacked Meisner, and the bear killed Meisner. Would we all run away? We would come back and kill the bear.
If the bear melted Miser, yes, I would run away.
Well,
I mean,
it's an
Doc, he's
animal
got
that
a
we
point.
don't quite understand, but you have explosives? Surely if you blow up the jellyfish.
I would not recommend using explosives in a cave that you're still standing.
Well, perhaps. Cave's been there for 10 million years, maybe.
Dr. Alvarado,
And there's earthquake.
if we are all the apostles, then we all will inevitably be martyred.
Can
happened
somebody
to him?
get him some morphine or
You're siding with the madman, by the way. So consider that for a moment.
But
Am I
apologize,
mad?
out of character. Did I forget that Elihu had a break at some point?
yeah,
He did have a
Elihu.
break.
Oh,
We
okay.
explained that. He was near suicidal. I think you
Ah,
were
yes.
trailing him for a while.
Sorry.
He
I
also
recall now.
he saw the doctor go.
Thank you for the reminder. My apologies.
I assume that we're having this conversation more. Dinner preparations have begun. I assume that there's been some makeshift work done, and we're having dinner omelets and the like.
Yeah, we're trying to clean up the camp that's been damaged in part. How's the engine? Did it get damaged by the earthquake?
Well, the generator's been rock proofed.
Oh, that's true.
You know, Dupree and Anders figured out how to keep that stable. Anders weighs in and says, I have to at least investigate the death of the chief of this expedition. I can't
Wait
just
for us to go with you, though.
run off in a panic at night in the middle of nowhere and take your word for it that
Yeah.
Meisner
Consider,
got-
though, that there is a wild animal, and we will do what we can.
No, obviously we'll take precautions. Also, if there were remains, we have to take the remains out and treat those with due reverence, whether the man was a maniac or not.
So, as we're sitting here, what do you think? How would you deal with this creature? Obviously, shooting it will probably not do it much damage because it's jelly-like.
Hmm.
But a hand grenade might work very well.
I'd give anything for one of those Winchester shotguns they had in the war.
Yeah, I think there may well be a small box of flares. There could even be some small explosive charges. There certainly aren't any grenades.
Shooting a flare into it, though, would be effective. It's fire, and it burns quite hot.
If it is acidic, wouldn't neutralizing the acid have terrible effect on it?
Like putting salt on the slug,
Exactly.
maybe.
I don't know. Do you have a bunch of baking soda laying around?
We got some baking soda. Not very much. If you want biscuits in the morning, though.
So I'd also like just generally, Dr. Alvarado was pretty close to the event.
It's right in front of me.
Ms. Dupree was pretty far. Elihu and Finley and Roland were in the middle of the cave, and they were turning toward the sound when the thing happened, and they saw it, but they didn't see it up close and personal. So, and attempts to describe it to the people who were not down there, and also not trying to sound crazy. And Elihu's got this twitch that he's developed, or some
He's lost
some
gun
cal-
privileges.
He has lots of rights to firearms. So the reasonable sense of urgency that the witnesses feel is hard to express. And for example, Carol Ash is like, I haven't been. I was sitting and waiting in the main cave in the evening. It was dull as dishwater. And the sandwiches got very soggy. You can be a bit of a bore, and I'm not going to leave without seeing this great stone tablet that you described. And as a geologist, this inexplicable seismic activity is of enormous interest, and I have to record every instance of it and try to localize it. So, if we decamp for a day or two, that's all well and good, but I have research here to do that's well above and beyond what I could have hoped for in the first place.
Why don't we make a compromise? Why don't we bivouac in the town? If we want, we'll come back in the daytime, well armed, to deal with the jellyfish bear.
Sounds wonderful. Roll it up with a pack of stuff.
Perhaps
we need to get out of
evening
here.
away from this locale will do us some good.
Dr. Alvarado, will you also roll an idea?
Prepared to me, certainly. I forgot my dice. 03.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're in a sleepy rural area on a Spanish island at dusk, and there's no hotel in the village of Baistajos.
Oh, that's true.
Maybe if you can find the priest, you could sleep in the church.
Maybe the
Or
farmer that I met, would he put us up in the barn?
If you feel safer in a barn, you could give that a try. I mean, you might have to wake somebody up because these people the fellow you met was an early riser like yourself. It was the wee hours.
What time is it right now in the camp?
You guys were down there longer than you expected to be, and the deliberations and the unorganized cooking have taken a little while. So it's 7:30 or 8, which means again it's that long dusk. It's not full dark yet, but
well, Doctor, I suggest we get going. I know there's probably not going to be any place nice to stay, but this thing, the last time we saw it, it was in the dark at night. It might not like light, but this is a porous ground we're on. This is like, I mean, this thing could come up through any number of holes in the ground and completely consume us. This is if the bear could sneak around in this analogy and drop out of the tree on us or something, right? Like,
I thought those were in Australia.
Yes, exactly. Terrifying creatures. But I don't think we can stay here. There's no way we could, even if we covered the hole in the I don't even remember the Nevada. There are other places.
People are reasonable and generally friendly. If we just go to the village now, yes, we'll be raising a bit of a ruckus, but we'll tell them that there's a wild animal that has killed the doctor, and that we just want to come out here while it's nighttime. We don't want to be in our tents. And they'll be reasonable, won't they? They're not monsters. They're not.
I'll take those odds. Maybe grab a cot just in case.
I agree.
Yep.
All right, we will. I think moving to town sounds like the best plan, at least for tonight. But I think the backup plan is also well warranted. I am just weighing in. I'm not making any decisions for this group at the moment. Oh, I would still prefer to leave, but if we have to, if the eggheads are going to insist that we stay, then we're going to do it smartly. Sound good?
Yeah, yes.
All right.
So, Keeper, in the interim, I'm going to try and recall if I understood anything of what Meisner said when he was yelling in that direction.
I believe that was part of what sent you into his tent to look for a lexicon. You have both sketched the Phoenician, but you also heard him
Right.
speaking. But it's not as though you have a working
Right.
knowledge. You don't have a Phoenician vocabulary in your head. There was other sonic interference. So
Right.
I don't think you could reasonably have
Work
picked
it
out
out.
a word. If
Okay.
you had known, if you had a chance to study the that that plate or tablet or whatever,
Right.
then you might have recognized if he was repeating that language, but you hadn't had a chance to copy it out yet. So it was pretty obscure. And he was facing away until the end.
So as we are we've picked up our stuff and we're starting to walk towards the village.
If people are in general agreement, the
Yes.
village of Vistyphos is where we're going.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to take cots so as to impose less, you might want to make a little travoy or something because they're heavy enough that
They fold up.
They fold up. It's wooden canvas, so but it's still like that's its own pretty
Right.
awkward thing.
So I will work on assembling that just to make our travel easier.
So as we're walking, I'm chatty, my character is. So I'm like, so there's a number of things I'd like to discuss as we're going. Does it seem to you like...
Let me interrupt you, Dr. Alvarado, just before you cross the first hill toward the village. I just want to know, so Spencer's helping people bring cots. I assume you bring a couple of jugs of water just so as not to impose. Are you also each taking, a backpack? What are you leaving behind? Are you taking anything from Meister's tent, or for that matter, from Kleinschmidt's, or from Copper's, or from Ramis, the cooks?
I guess a better question would be, have we searched their tents?
Yeah, I was going through them earlier.
You only went through Kleinschmidt's, and you didn't...
Well, in Meisner's, I was looking for a lexicon.
Meisner's, I meant. You went through Meisner's.
As we're in that case, then as we're gearing up to leave, I'd like to go through Copper's tent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'll take Meisner's lexicon. It's big and fat and heavy, but I want to be able to keep looking through it.
And he has a number of books. There were actually two lexicons, one bound and one not bound for Phoenician in particular.
Doctor, do you need me to bring any of these other translation books? I don't see a reason. If you have the books, you're able to translate that tablet, right?
I assume we're coming back tomorrow. However, it's a lot of weight right now. I'm not going to be able to do much overnight.
Yeah, but maybe we take it slow in the morning. You know, it's
that's fine. I think these two books though will be enough.
Okay.
I've got your photographs, and I've got yeah. Do you find it? Kleinschmidt's notes talked about an idol, but we haven't found anything that resembles an idol.
Did we find a knife? You mentioned a knife too, right?
There was a knife underneath the pillow, I believe. Doctor, you have that, correct?
It's obsidian. Yeah, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. One piece of worked obsidian, pretty obscure.
I'm wondering, because of what happened, was Meisner calling this thing? It was almost like he was in a state of worship. He really didn't want to leave the caves.
He didn't seem like the most stable individual, and as he's doing this, like, Finley is packing more stuff into his overstuffed backpack. I'm just like, I don't know. Meisner, he was driven to madness. I think language took him too far or something. I don't
possibly,
know.
but could it have been that Meisner had already been there He wasn't exactly acting as, I don't know, it was his surprise, not surprise.
It would have been difficult for him to have made the travel into that section without Lillian's setup. Like, we had to do all the stuff to like get down and get back up the other side, unless he had another path in, which is possible. But
or if he had a helper with him.
Yeah.
Kleinschmidt.
Kleinschmidt seems like he did not, based on what you said of the journal, was not exactly on Meisner's side.
Doctor.
And yet he went in.
Could I see the knife?
Don't
worry. I just want to see it.
Elihu,
I'll walk over here. Good day, sir.
Snapping out of it, please.
I'm quite well. I'm quite well. I'm quite well.
If you stab yourself, I'm telling your mother.
I just want to see it with my eyes. I don't need to feel it.
All right. That. Yeah, I'll show it to him.
I want to look. Does it resemble like a sacrificial knife? Like I would know to be like using my archaeology.
Yeah, because a tool would look different than a.
Yes, because I'm thinking of the Mesoamerican, obsidian knife that they would sacrifice people with.
Right.
Sure, give me an archaeology roll.
All right. Okay, 60. That's a pass.
It does not necessarily look. It is not specifically like a thing you've seen in Mesoamerica. It does not look like a practical tool. It looks like a tool that was worked to a higher degree of finish, as if it's an important object, whether even to be used or just to be made very beautiful. Given that, if you are allowed to handle it at all, the functional end is it's got 4 edges, 2 quite sharp and 2 shallow. They're all sharp. Add a spot hidden to that roll, if you would.
Got it. Uh-oh. No.
All right. Watch your fingers then.
Uh-oh. Ah, damn. Blast.
It's not that sharp.
I'll take the knife back. It's very sharp. You think it's ceremonial?
I would say it's undoubtedly ceremonial. Probably to given its functional nature, cut the hearts or stab the sides of anyone.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty. It's a substantial length, and it, in addition to being worked rather attractively, if obscurely, it also does seem like it's got practical. Like the rough part that is the grip is quite grippable, and you could hold it to do, a number of stabby things.
Of course, you know that it's not always what its appearance is. I'm thinking of like the Hindu purba, which looks like a knife, but is ceremonial and simply points to the center of the universe symbolically. You don't stab anybody with it. It's weird looking. It's very strange.
It would imply that there was some sort of sacrifice necessary to quell the ire of this creature.
Or gain something from it. What if the professor lured our poor Kleinschmidt down there and gave him to that thing? I mean, Kleinschmidt's belongings were strewn along the way. And the doctor may have been elderly, but he wasn't completely feeble with a little help. I found it odd that he attacked what's her name in what's his name's tent.
Yes, he and Ana Ramirez had a scuffle at Hugh Maris's tent.
Yeah, why would he think that Hugh was missing? Unless he thought something was coming for someone.
Well, going by the 12 apostles analogy, one of us would have to be Judas, the traitor.
Well, history doesn't always repeat itself.
Well, Kleinschmidt doesn't know that.
Well, let's leave off the biblical stuff for now. I'm just thinking this could be as simple as murder.
Most foul. And Mr. Blackwell, you have done an efficient little study of Mr. Copper's tent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty, well, what's it appropriate? I guess a knowledge roll is suitable. So your education.
Got it. Oh, we are off to a fantastic start with an 85 out of 60.
All right. Well, what you don't find is a diary or any form of ID or small personal items like a watch.
So it's almost like he wasn't in here, or
so if he said me and the cook are going into town to get some supplies and we'll be back later today, why did he take the most important things?
because he had the right idea.
That I will allow you to make your own conclusions, but or his place was ransacked after he vanished and they
Entirely
took his
possible.
his passport and what have you. But those things, the things that you would take if you were planning on being away for a minute, a real minute, all that stuff's gone. And there's still, there's paperwork and there's
Clothing and
extra
stuff like that.
socks. It wasn't cleaned out.
Got it. Okay. Well,
What were other oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was going to move on to the next person's tent who we hadn't gone through, unless someone else would like to assist with the search, because apparently I'm a little distracted at the moment.
Kleinschmidt's tent, he's got a smaller library than Meissner had. Obviously, we actually find a second glasses case with another pair of glasses in it. He has notes. Some of them are shorthand from Meissner, if anybody reads shorthand. And they're dated at the top in regular writing, date, Meissner. With a few personal effects. You don't find anything that you would call an idol. You do. Oh, world spot hidden.
I got a 33 out of 40.
So you're looking a little more into mundane things than you might, because there's this idol question and so on.
Right.
When you push aside some socks in his trunk, there's some socks rolled together that are strangely heavy. And when you take them out, there's a Roman coin in there, which he probably didn't bring as a souvenir or as a lucky charm.
Got it. But nothing else in his tent.
No, the difference between his tent and Copper's is that it doesn't look like Kleinschmidt was planning to go anywhere.
Right. I'm gonna show that coin to Eli and Dr. Alvarado.
Another old coin.
Yeah, but I found it in Kleinschmidt's possession. Does it mean anything? Or is it just an old coin?
Is it made out of silver or some other material?
It's gold.
Gold.
Does it look clean or dirty?
It's very shiny. It's shiny. It's shiny enough that if you took it to a numismatist, they might think you treated it badly by excessively cleaning it.
Yeah.
Or forged it.
Wow. So there's a couple of things. One is gold usually doesn't tarnish, so it will stay shiny, but it'll get roughed up. He could have polished it just by rubbing on it, but he's damaging it in the process. My guess is that where would he have gotten it from if he didn't get it from where we saw things, which means that they were in the cave. Ask. Well, now I'm worried because if we ask Mr. All my names. Wait, they're over here. Mr. Anders, and he says, of course they didn't go into that cave. And is Anders in on it too? He seems like a very straightforward person, but I don't know. Does it look at all similar to anything that we found in the cave? We grabbed one of those coins too.
The little patch of metallic objects is quite varied in character.
Mm-hmm.
So it would not be out of keeping with that. It's not. It is similar to some of the things there, but there were quite a number of things there. Again, plates and rings and.
I thought that we found a coin. I picked it up.
There are coins. Yeah, numerous coins.
Any of them matching this one? Like same emperor or same inscription or
same century at least.
Yeah. So I think they've been in that cave already. This was in Kleinschmidt's room?
Yeah. Yeah, I found it in one of his socks.
All right. So he went in there, found it, and came back. He's been in there more than once.
Well, his journal said as much. Who had Kleinschmidt's journal? I'm gonna fish it out of somebody's pocket.
I think Dr. Alvarado probably has it.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean this?
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't he say something? There was a blade in the idol and like some kind of seal? I mean,
what if he thinks that the rock is the seal? It doesn't actually look like what I would call a seal. Seal's usually a clay tablet or something that's been used to literally mark a door. You'd have to break it in order to.
I mean, look, I just found out giant slime monsters are real, so if you want to call it a loofah, be my guest. But it could be a seal.
Always been giant slime monsters. They live in the ocean. They're called octopuses and squids and sea anemones.
This statement of facts does not seem to reassure Mr. Blackwell.
I don't know. There's something going on here. I think that the doctor and Kleinschmidt and maybe Copper and the others found something, and they were lying to us about it. Perhaps luring us into that cave to give us the slime monster,
It's a
the
theory.
jellyfish.
Anders is sitting on a rock on the hillside near the path toward the village, and he takes out his little cigarillo and is like, "Are you guys moving or are we not moving?
We're
I mean,
moving.
we could just have a watch tonight. We had a watch last night. We didn't see anything. But if we're going to town, let's go to town. Stop digging through people's underwear drawers." Jesus.
Quite correct, Mr. Andrews.
As he's complaining, is there anybody else's underwear drawer I haven't gone through yet?
Yeah,
Well,
that is currently not here to object.
So the search in Meissner's tent was conducted by Dr. Alvarado, and he was specifically looking for only a couple things, and he found the journal and the knife sort of accidentally.
Right.
You've done now an attempt at a thorough investigation of both Copper's and Kleinschmidt's tents.
If I would not be doing my duty as a security person if I did not also do a thorough investigation of Meissner's tent or sleeping space or whatever you would like to call it. Sorry.
It's messy.
My mustache. Apologies.
Fisher's turning to Dupree. Is he going back to the... enough. I'm going to go help. Good grief. We need to be on the road. We're losing daylight.
You've
I'm
lost
packing
daylight.
camp essentials at this point. Yeah, I've just been packing.
Look, I've got everything arranged in piles in Meissner's tent because it was quite a mess.
It was piling things. Engineer Dupree, what do you think about, and you can talk with Anders about this or anybody else, are you going to turn the generator off? Or are you going to...
I'll consult with Anders. It is like he is the chief engineer here, and it's his work site. So I'd like to discuss it with him, see what he thinks. I'm inclined to save the power and turn it off.
Gasoline.
Exactly. Yeah, it's gas.
Yeah, I'm of two minds. If we wanted to come back here and it was dark, a string of lights would be very welcome.
Mm-hmm.
We have ample fuel if nothing breaks. And sabotage is equally easy to do whether these things are running or whether they're off. So I'll let it be your call, but we could...
Let's leave it on.
We could turn the generator down to, turn it down to a 1 and just leave one string of lights on so that if we come over the hill, we can see camp.
All right. Yeah, let's leave it on. That's
I like
sound wise.
Mr. Cartwright, how are you preparing for this transition?
I'm just grabbing whatever I need for the night, shoving it into my bag, folding up my cot, and just standing kind of anxious, with the daylight leaving, wanting to leave, inching almost to down the path myself.
Right. You're like, you've moved into the "we're ready to go" crowd at the top of the crest that are just like,
yep.
Okay. Fisher and Blackwell back in Meister's tent. Spot hiddens again.
Regular, but I'm
Dice
reckless.
I'm
going to spend luck to make it a hard.
Very good.
I got a 37, so another regular. I don't know if I want to spend that much luck, but then again, No, I'm not going to drop that much luck.
You hold on. What you find is you're reasonably sure that nothing that could be called an idol is in his possession. He does have, however, also cleaned up a little. He's got sort of a one of those foldy velvet things that's got several metallic objects in it.
Hmm.
It's got a silver coin. It's got a ring with a writing that you don't immediately recognize on it. It's got uh, bits and bobs that aren't so obvious. One of them might be a gold tooth. It's like 6 or 7 things that were tucked away, and then he's got a lot of miscellaneous nonsense. Mr. Fisher, you find that he's got, in addition to the other books that were of interest to Dr. Alvarado, he's got one facsimile that's in a cloth binding of a book that you've never heard of, but the author appears to be called Eibon, and it's written in a kind of archaic English, and it's got it's got scribbles in it here and there, and also there's a loose sheet of paper inside it.
All right. Holy Source and Scourge of Life, Bone Dancer, question mark, remains entombed, seals, unbloodied, on high and on low and on high, in 5 eternities, perhaps 10,000, 50,000. I don't like how he scribbled out on holy. That's not, that's a big switch.
Yeah, so he typed something up and then he made notes on it. You assume he did. It's tucked into this facsimile. He's got a couple of other kind of suspicious looking books as well, if you want to make a little bundle, or
I
just
think
point
I
them
would
out to
like
Alvarado.
to. Yeah, this Blackwell, help me carry these. He's got some very strange looking books that probably are worth letting our academic types take a look at. I'm sure it will only do good things for their mental state to have something to focus on.
Here, Eli, read this. Yes, I'll help you gather up the books.
Yeah, just he's kind of pointing out that little text of this. He knew what we were getting into clearly. Bone Dancer, it seems to match the look of it. Big old seals, that makes sense. I don't like the bloodied part.
What is a
Is that
bone
why he
dancer?
wanted us down there so bad? Okay, we let's make for the village. We can talk on the way. We've
Okay.
done enough searching through underwear drawers.
All right. Well, lead the way. He's got his arm full of books.
So the trek to the village takes a little longer than it would have if it were brighter, or you were carrying less stuff, or if the night was not scarier than it was a night earlier when you set a watch.
Glamping?
Not yet, it isn't. Most of you haven't seen the village before. It's quaint to a fault. Almost no there are some buildings that have 2 stories, but the second story isn't much. Like maybe it's a stooping level attic. Or there are some things like barns that are built partly into hillsides, so they can have more levels, but they're not freestanding. The church is but by far the tallest structure. There are no electric lights, and there's not a lot of as you walk toward the village, like you can see glowing windows, you can see smoke against the sky. There are probably a few external lanterns. You hear animal noises around you in the brush, and there are fences, and the houses are pretty simple. Uh, there's some thatch roof and there's some terracotta roof. Uh, things look old, and it's probably the path you come down over the hill, which isn't very well used, gets closer, meets a larger track as you approach town. And town is basically a central plaza that is rectilinear, and the streets that go off that break up into little random offshoots that don't go more than, I mean, most of them are dead ends. Maybe a few hundred people live here.
The town grew organically, is what you're saying.
It grew organically. The smell of animal waste is predominant, but not oppressive. It's not, it's just, ruminants. It's not like there's a night watchman.
Is there the farmhouse that? Well, yeah, you said he probably goes to bed early.
Is sanctuary a tradition? I just
Oh.
know the shout sanctuary.
Well, we're not living in medieval times, though. It's a little. They're not going to understand the word.
Might be.
Let's find the local priest and ask him, and he'll know who to talk to, where they could put us up.
Mr. Blackwell's met him after all.
Yes, actually. The father was quite amenable, at least. Yes, we should head to the church. Maybe you can put us up in the, well, sorry, more of a chapel if we're fortunate. Maybe you can put us up inside for the night. I've never been much of a religious man, but I find myself seeking the comfort of holy ground given these strange happenings.
Well, the church is the only obvious building in town. It's the only thing that stands out. Presumably the priest lives in or near it.
Probably in an attached bungalow next to the church.
Some sort of parsonage or...
Yeah.
And in fact, there is a lantern that's on a hook near the doors of the church, which are taller, and they're not, for a Catholic church, you wouldn't call it fancy, but they're nicely maintained and well made. This is a pretty hardscrabble town. Everyone, I invite you all to roll spot hidden.
I failed.
You got a extreme.
Same.
I got a regular.
Fail.
We got two night sight fellows. The church has a wooden sign, but it has the main double door. It has two single side doors next to that. Above it, there's a wooden painted sign that's hand painted in a pretty Gothic looking script. Iglesia de Dama Sagrada, Sacred Lady Church, straightforward. There's also, and it's a medieval style stone edifice. It's got a fairly decent, slightly skew steeple, not patched up or earthquake driven, but just a little off.
Tired.
Old. Yeah. And it's got a recess to the left of the three doors that's got a figure of the Virgin in it. And she's about life size. And it looks to be a very old painted wood figure. And it's painted all blue. And the figure has arms that are holding a baby, but you just see the baby's sort of a little bit of torso and a round head without any particular face on it. And the Virgin also, she has sort of, you can see the carving is old and simple. You can see that a little bit of the veil over her head, but then her face is very simple, except that the wood is a bit cracked vertically because they carved with the grain. And so there are sort of tears that just run down from the wood bleeding onto the paint, which is a little strange. It's where you notice it in the night. Finley, you're going to stop for a picture?
Yes,
You need a
actually, I
long
think he
exposure or a
would.
flash.
Yeah. He's got a lot of flash. Well, he doesn't have a lot of flash bulbs, but he's been kind of carrying them with him. And I must say, folks, this makes me feel less safe about this whole endeavor.
I
There's a
agree
flash
with
of
you
light.
on that. If the statue had been anything but blue, I may feel a little bit better.
Is it bleeding from its eyes?
It's just cracked. My goodness, look, if you're going to see something scary in everything you look at,
Roland's gonna go up and feel it. See if it's just the wood playing a trick or if it's actually.
It feels, again, it's a little stone recess. There's just a bit of sort of dry leaf matter and stuff around the base. It's several feet off the ground, and she's roughly life size. So you could only, reach at most like her knee without clambering up on something. It feels like old wood that's been painted and polished and repainted and
Gotcha.
seen sun and rain and time. It could be for a wooden sculpture that lives outside, it looks both very cared for and very old.
I'd like to believe that it's just tradition, but Meisner was talking about Isis and the Virgin Mother dressed in blue, and
And the blue mother. Yeah.
yes, it's I'm
Thanks, I
afraid
hate
my
it.
bravery has left me to go into the church. It doesn't feel as safe as perhaps it once did.
I mean, as much as I'm inclined to agree with you, Finley, we may just be reading a bit too much into this.
I'm just going to walk into the church.
Yeah,
If it's between this and the campsite, I'm taking this.
I'm with
You make a good
I'm
point.
with Free.
Finley's the last one outside, and he's finally just like, fine. Hustle in.
I have the very strong urge to walk into the church and go, "Dear God!" Like, and see if everybody runs.
Shout something
Anyway,
in
so I started
Phoenician.
blasting. Oh, sorry, Finley.
Well, there's pews. We can sit on the pews at least. If you want, I'll go.
Also, Fisher and Cartwright, with your accurate observations, there is attached to the building, semi-attached on the right side, there is what looks like a residential house that's nicer than most of the houses. And there are shutters, but you can see light through them.
Yeah.
So,
Do we want to go knock on that? How old is the church? It sounded like it was pretty
Stone is
newish. Yeah, is it pretty? Like, does it look like it was built on something old, like some of those were?
Might
some of
also
some of the foundation stones are quite large.
Is there a cornerstone with a date?
Let's roll luck.
Could be like 1605 or 78. That's not good for me.
Not a tradition everywhere to do that. And often when things are built over periods of time,
Yeah.
it's only the most recent construction anyway, but you don't see one.
How about our archaeologist? Does he have an idea based on the style?
Do I have an idea?
Well, let's roll archaeology, or roll knowledge, actually, or edu. That's better. I assume your edu is higher than your archaeology.
Ellie, who edged you?
Not with a 99, it isn't.
No.
Oh,
Oof.
He's been faking his education. this whole time.
I've been rolling terrible all night.
somehow, somewhere, someone just
think this-
rescinded your PhD.
Is this a church?
This is clearly
This was a Dairy Queen once.
exactly.
Oh,
But
So,
if-
Philippe, you were sort of ready to barge into the church, but if
no, I'll
Emily
just
or-
walk myself like a Catholic does. Mr. Blackwell, perhaps since you've already met the priest, you can go knock on his door and tell him what our problem is.
I think that's a good idea.
I'm
I'll head over.
I'm confused for a moment. If you're going into the church, but you're telling Spencer to go around the church to the house, I'm confused about what's happening.
Well, when they were talking outside the church and freaking themselves out, I just walked in.
Right.
Got
Fair
it. As he's walking in and I guess shouting instructions over his shoulder, I think I will go and speak with the priest myself.
Are the rest of us huddling in the dark street or following one party or the other?
My intention is to start setting up camp with the hopes that we will not be turned away because we've already set up camp.
Inside the church.
Yes.
I was gonna follow Blackwell.
I'll follow Lillian.
Yeah, I'll go into the church as well. I won't be setting things up, but I'll, sit down in the pew and hope for the best.
Did somebody make sure they're holding Fisher's hand?
Don't hold you. Ah!
So four in the church and 2 to see the father. We'll start
sounds-
with the church crowd. Catholic Church is universal and yet prone to local custom of various kinds. It's not totally dark in here because there are a couple of there's the 2 stands of votive candles.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're past the vestry into the church proper, and there are candles lit there, and some of them are tall and will last longer. And there are 2 candelabras nearer the altar that are obviously 12-hour candles so that anyone who enters isn't in pitch darkness. The place smells of old wood and polish and eons of incense, and probably not that much beeswax just because there isn't, probably some beeswax, but it's poor. The crucifix behind the altar is also of old carved wood. And as is not, I think, terribly uncommon, particularly in Roman countries, extraordinarily tortured and bloody. The
Spanish.
Christ's fingers are bent in agony around the spikes that then have blood that roll down the arm to the elbow, and the gash in his side is puckered open and pours dark painted blood down that stains the loincloth and runs down his legs to the feet that are blue and gray from the torture and bruising.
His eyes wide open, his mouth
His
open in
eyes,
agony.
his mouth twisted in agony, his eyes both bulging, but the lids are partially down in misery, and the black pits of their pupils are half covered. Yeah, the crown is
Ah,
sharp,
Spanish.
and there's a lot of gore,
The Spanish know how to make a gruesome looking crucifix.
and it's very quiet in here. Although the wood, when you move around, it all creaks, and there's clearly a basement or subfloor, so that you also have a hollow thud when you move. There's a smallish gallery, the second story, and there's some stained glass, but it's not light enough outside for you to make any sense of what it looks like.
I'll light a photo and say a prayer quietly.
In terms of setting up a cot, there is, I mean, the pews take up most of the space, but there is an open sort of standing area between the vestibule and where the pews start. You could get, there aren't that many of you. You can begin to set that up.
All right, that sounds good.
Spencer and Spencer and Finley,
Or it was Spencer and Eli, I thought.
sorry, Spencer and Eli turn around, and there's two old stone steps to the front door of the attached presumable parsonage, and he's got a little iron knocker attached to the door.
I'm going to use the international knock of greeting. So,
Shave and a haircut. Yep. Don't know if it's that international, but
to an Englishman, it's international.
fair enough. There's a you have a sense that you weren't hearing anything in the house, but there's a little silence after you knock.
A moment of tension.
Yeah, a moment of uncertainty, let's say. Then you hear shuffling, and a woman opens the door. She's about 4.5 feet tall and maybe 500 years old, figuratively. So this is a woman whose wrinkles collapsed into further bags that became new wrinkles. She hasn't chewed her own food since you've been alive.
Oh, so
And she's got a shawl over her head, and her arthritic hands are holding the door partially open, and she just looks at you in dumbfounded confusion.
Eli, do you speak Greek or Spanish, or what do they speak on this island?
They speak Menorca, a version of Catalan.
I speak Spanish.
All right, you try.
The priest spoke English.
Oh, I guess I apologize. I do have manageable Spanish. I'm gonna attempt to ask where the father is. I do stress manageable. It's only a 40.
Well, we predicated at the beginning that normal Spanish isn't a challenge for this crew, but this woman doesn't have a lot of Spanish, and she doesn't have any English. But she will probably, the word padre is going to be clear enough to her, and partly she doesn't see a lot of people that she wasn't here to see born.
That's fair.
So she sort of, makes some gracious gestures and leaves the door open an inch so as not to shut it in your face, and disappears in the house. And a minute later, Father Ruben appears at the door, and he says, you're from the dig? Is there something?"
Meissner has
Yes.
sacrificed himself to the Blue
Well,
Mother.
hang on. Uh, I'm just sort of like, quiet, Eli. Um, Father Ruben, there's been a bit of an accident at the dig site, and we did not feel safe staying there overnight. Is there any chance we might be able to sleep in the chapel?
Come in.
Uh,
And he speaks in rapid fire Menorca to the housekeeper, and she bustles off toward presumably the kitchen or the gun room, who can say.
well, yeah. Um, this meeting is either going to go real well or be real short. And as we go inside, I'm going to do that. I guess I feel obligated to do that stereotypical sort of glance around outside to see if there's anybody following us before I duck in.
Spot hidden, please.
Sure. Oh, now you want to work. Uh, a 16,
Hmm.
which is going to put me at a uh, half, so hard success.
Yeah. You turn back to look, and there's this dim, quiet village with very little light, just some peeping out of windows here and there. And there's a distinct silhouette of a head and a shoulder in a doorway in one house and in a window at another.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I mean, I close the door behind me as we go into the Padres. What's the official name for it again? I was just gonna say house.
I think it might be a parsonage. It depends.
Parsonage. That Yeah, that makes my brain itch. That sounds right.
Rectory, I think is.
Ah,
Rectory. You know.
so
And
we
it depends. There are local distinctions and other, but yeah, his house is attached dwelling. So he sort of beckons you in from the entryway to a little sitting room, and it's a little sitting room like you'd expect. There are bookshelves, and there's small wooden tables with doilies, and it's clean. There are some small religious paintings on the walls. Uh, and
is there
he
a
just
theme in
says
here?
it 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 looks generically Catholic,
Okay.
with a Gothic on the Gothic side. It's not.
What I meant was, since we're all traumatized of being ultra vigilant, I'm looking for any female figure in blue that's like repeated throughout the space.
There, I mean, you're not going to like peek around. There might
No,
be a
I
Mary
understand.
in here, and if there's a Mary, she's probably in blue. But there's not
Got it.
only, it's not, there aren't 8 Marys in niches
That's what I
in
was
this room.
getting at. Okay.
So Father Ruben, sits you down, and he says, she'll bring tea in a minute. What have you done? And what have you seen?
Immediately, just like a lot of things just got answered, um, because that's not the response of someone who, didn't know something was going on. Um, so Spencer's like going to just lean to one side, and make sure that he has a clear path from his arm to his left hip where his Webley is sitting. Not obvious, but just sort of like things just got a lot more dangerous in this room. And he's gonna say, "Well, I didn't witness anything, but the there seems to have been some kind of accident in a cave beneath the Eli. What's the thing called?
It's the Taliot.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
at this point, I will say, Meissner has sacrificed himself to the Blue Mother.
And you could just see the vein, just like Okay,
So the little German is dead?
well, the
yeah.
German's dead. Kleisner's probably dead. We don't know what happened to Copper. Y'all were the last to see him.
Copper, yeah. Sacrificed himself to the Blue Mother. Where do you get this language?
His journal,
Are you?
and he was busy screaming about it, I guess. Eli saw the whole thing.
And the priest looks real hard at you, Elihu. And it's rural psychology.
Oh boy. Oh, 12.
Yeah.
Damn, nice.
You've got a solid read on Father Ruben's face. And this eye says, I want to skin you alive.
Uh-oh.
And this eye says, you're out of your mind. You're damaged. And you feel a bit pierced by this gaze. You
Whoa.
know, like a little bit like a pinned animal. Which doesn't mean you're not pinned.
We didn't know what he was going to do until he did it.
No, he didn't know what he was going to do if he did it.
Okay,
What?
we got to back up. So you know about this. What is it?
She is goddess, and the less you know, the better for your own good. If your Meissner hadn't thought himself so knowledgeable, what time is it?
Do I have a watch? I don't think if I did, I probably lost it at some point. Also, I'm sorry, Catholic priest. You just said this was a goddess?
Tread lightly, boy.
I'm willing to bet my lack of immersion in all of this is the only thing not making me like him. So I'm just trying to make sense to it. Make it make sense to a 5-year-old. Maybe I'll be able to understand what's going on.
This area? Where are the others? Where are your people? How many are gone?
Missing?
How long ago did he break it? God.
We would have to ask Dr. Alvarado. I believe he still has the journal in his possession.
Never mind the tea. Follow me to the church. We don't have time. It's so late. She's already out. Tomorrow. God, you fools. You filthy, stupid, ugly fools. All of you.
Hang on, there's like 3 people responsible for this, and it ain't us.
Follow me to the church. And he calls back to the old woman and pushes you out the front door. And he's trembling a little bit, and his coloring isn't great. And he pushes you up the stairs, and there's Lillian fluffing a pillow. Like rough wool blanket shaking out.
The priest.
You have doomed us all. You people have doomed us all. I don't know. thousands and thousands of years we have maintained the shrine. You fools, come here. Shh. Follow me. Oh, wait here. I'll call you. And he hustles through a door, and you hear pounding footsteps, and you hear a low bell.
As he's doing that or walks away to do that, I look over at Spencer. What is going on?
Yeah, what happened?
So the short version is Father Reuben knows about the jelly monster and sounds like he's been sacrificing people to it. Meisner did not heed the warnings, and apparently getting himself eaten was the beginning of something horrific.
Well, why is he ringing that bell? Are we
Excellent
next?
question. I have no idea. I think it's time to leave.
Is the rest of the camp with us?
Yeah, we have
Yeah, we're
nowhere
all
to
here.
go. What? Leave where?
Anders came with us. Oh yeah, did we leave the? I guess yeah. I think everyone's
No.
with us.
Everyone came with us.
Yeah, everyone
Hugh
came
and
with.
Anders and Ash.
They're on.
It was a group decision.
We could hide in the caves.
Oh, that's
No.
smart.
Okay, hold up. Y'all, if they knew about this for ages, think you can't feed something like that for like that's so many people. And here, and he pulls out the little book thing. Look, if we think that the thing they were looking to translate was the seal, and it has to be unbloodied or bloodied, or I don't know, it's not clear, but are we not sure that maybe these dummies, woke it up? Like they broke it somehow? Why would the people here break it? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it does not sound like the villagers are
No,
Is Spencer
throwing
telling us?
people.
sorry, the accusation is that Meissner broke whatever. We're getting into like witchcraft
Right.
and sorcery levels of nonsense here.
Sure, but it's not our fault.
Well, right, but we're also not of the village, and as you know, as the resident Englishman, probably not the most popular person on the island. So I would
Probably not.
like to leave, and I would rather take my chances in the scrub than in the four walls of this chapel.
After about that much conversation, a couple of minutes after the bells have tolled,
Yeah,
Father Ruben emerges from the door that he exited. He's got he had already a sort of regular priestly cassock or,
Right.
garb on. Now he's got a bit of a robe over it. Nothing very fancy, sort of over the shoulder ceremonial thing. And he beckons from the door he went through is near the altar, and he beckons. There's no time. Well, I will show you what I can.
uh,
How do we
Question.
drive this thing back?
This thing, blasphemer.
Father, we only just arrived. We didn't do anything.
We only just arrived. Humanity only just arrived. She is ancient. She is the All-Mother. And she is also the All-Devourer. Come now.
I shoot him. Can I shoot him?
Don't
You
shoot
can-
it.
Oh.
You can pull out your webbling, give it a shot, as it were.
All right. I'll split the difference, Dr. Alvarado. I'll kneecap him. How's that?
No, I'll grab your gun and say, you can't shoot the priest. He's the only one who knows what's going on.
If anything, the Pope is going to thank me for this, as you and I are like struggling to get the gun up here.
They've been keeping this thing back, and Meisner let it out. They're going to try and put it back.
Yes, and how do you think they're going to do that? It's
I
not
have
going to
no
be with the
idea.
villagers. I can guarantee you that much.
What's it been for the last 10,000 years? You don't know that it's a human sacrifice. All you know, I mean, they can throw salt at it, like Fisher said.
Are you physically struggling during this argument? And does anyone
I've
want to
got a
step
hold of
in?
the barrel, so he can't point it.
Yeah, I believe there would be a physical altercation, but it's one of those like, really, are we really doing this right now?
No. So Spencer, how hard are you trying to aim?
I think there'll be a moment of sort of like, really, Dr. Alvarado, we're doing this, and then, all right, that's enough. So I go from sort of taking the academic's word on it to making a decision rather quick. So seriously.
So that's enough what? That's enough.
That's enough, like, and trying to shoot this guy.
Okay, so we have an opposed strength roll.
Sure.
I don't think you guys are brawling.
No. Ooh, I got a 14.
No, I got a 30.
All right. That's hard for you, Spencer?
Actually, that is skating under an extreme by 1.
And that's fail for you, Dr. Alvarado?
No, it was regular, but if I
Regular.
spent 5 points, I'd have a hard also. But if he only needs to spend 1 to make it an extreme, then
No. It's at an extreme now.
He cut under the extreme by a point. So what I'm going to say is, because of the interference of his regular success, you're going to have a penalty die on your shot.
Sure. All right.
you murdered him in cold blood. You don't even know what he was going to
that's
do.
another regular single-digit D10, right?
Yeah.
The penalty die?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Divine Mother might have just not like mustard. All we were going
I
to do
got
is
a 39 out of 65, which is just a regular success.
And were you going with the cold shot where you were trying to kneecap him?
I
think at that point we were struggling.
we were struggling. I don't feel it would be fair to say I was trying to do a cold shot at that point.
We can't dodge bullets, but Father Ruben had plenty of opportunity to realize what was happening and try to move, so I'm going to give him a shot. Yeah, no. Roll damage. We were at a little bit of a distance, but that Webley's a nasty thing, right?
Yep. It's 1d10 plus 2.
And we're probably 10 feet away from him.
Yeah.
No, you were kind of back at the cot area, and he was up by the altar, but
that's going to be 11 total points of damage.
okay. So Father Ruben sort of, trying to anticipate what the hell you crazy foreigners were doing, takes a big hit and collapses back to the floor by the altar and cries out in agony. He is not yet dead.
Got a man in cold blood.
I'm
You're
a soldier,
panicked.
sir. That's literally my job.
No, you're panicking. It's as bad as the superstitions of these people. He didn't do anything. He rang a bell. You shot him. I'm outraged. I'm going to start cussing at him in foreign languages.
Around this time, all three of the doors of the church open up as the village begins to pile in, having been summoned by the priest's bell.
Oh, boy.
They've got, farmers' guns, literal pitchforks. It's a pretty motley crew of, I mean, they're pressing in against you, and they're numerous.
As they pile in, I look at Dr. Alvarado and just go, at least I'll die knowing I was correct.
Yeah, but we might not have died if we'd all left with three.
Oh, sure.
I would like to flee.
I don't know if there's anywhere to go, but I am also going to make the attempt.
Are the people coming out in the door that the priest was going out?
No, so you guys were at the back of the church after the vestibule where there's a little space before the pews, setting your stuff up when he brought in the other two, and then he ran to the front, up the stairs, rang the bell, came down, got blown away, and now all three of the exit doors are full of peasants who are becoming aware of the fact that you just shot the priest in the chest.
Oh,
So Finley, your desire to flee,
Yes.
you could try to run toward the altar and try another door, but the three doors of the public entryway are full of people who were woken from or taken from their meals, and there's a press of them. Like it's not
Right.
three people
Yeah.
who walked in. It's the village is moving in through those doors.
Yeah, he'll go
Right.
through the door that the priest came out of, but this is a bad look, folks.
So you will
adios.
run toward the altar with your camera bag jostling, and you can hear glass breaking. And
Terribly sorry, Your Honor, but if you could calm your goddess down, that'd be great. Goodbye.
Can I assume that the church is built like a Catholic church? Is there a vestry on the side of the altar? Maybe a separate little room where there would be a door going outside? Maybe directly to the priest's house.
given that it's an old structure, it might not be built in a totally standard style. There's more than one door toward the altar. Yes,
Okay.
there probably are some. There's got to be a room to change your garb in. There's a room just to store the wine. There might be a room to a cellar. There's clearly a room to the belfry.
So I will run. If I'm looking at the altar, I'm running to the right to the door that's there, hoping that there's a door then to the outside from that room. I'm not down into a cellar.
Two have broken from the pack and are fleeing the presumptive mob, not looking at all guilty.
I did a candle.
It's true. You did. Spencer, you've got a smoking gun in your hand, and
I'm gonna drag Father Reuben to his feet and sort of like hoist him as like a shield, like a hostage situation.
so you're also hurrying to the altar area of the church.
Correct.
Outway,
breathing almost
right,
as much as-
Dupree.
Oh dear. Well, if Blackwell has grabbed the priest, because my initial intention was to maybe rush to provide first aid, but if that is the case, that he is now being held as a hostage, I am leaving.
Well, you're
Yeah.
not getting out the door you came in.
Yeah, I'll go out the way that Fisher went.
You're following hopeful Fisher and hopeful Alvarado, who are looking for
Yes.
a way out.
Cartwright is gonna do the same. He no clue how to react in this situation, so he's I think he's following Fisher's lead since he was the one who reacted first.
I think I grabbed Hugh too as I'm going. I'm dragging him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm hoping Anders has the sense to move.
Student Anna Ramirez has turned to the villagers and is, she doesn't speak Menorca, but some of them have more Spanish. And she's sort of, she's like, we don't know what's going on. People are injured. We need help. Who speaks the best Spanish? Is there someone? And a fellow who's a little better dressed than the mob sort of pushes his way through. He's got a pretty nice dark suit. He's clean shaven, and he starts speaking to Anna. Um, but the roar of the crowd and people are still pushing their way in is increasing. There's a lot of unrest in this group. Elihu, did you tell me what your plan was?
I don't really know what to do. I'm gonna go into the confessional booth.
They'll never find you there.
It might not.
It might be a minute. They didn't see you run in. All right. Let's have a colloquy briefly between Lillian and Spencer. It's not clear that the father is at least immediately mortal. It looks like, there's no exit wounds, and he hasn't bled so much that it's clear that you ruptured an important organ. So he might have gotten lucky on a rib
or something.
catch.
Okay.
But you're not going to be able to perform first aid and use him as human shield. So you're going to have to work that out.
I mean, I ran. Seeing that situation, I was out. So
I
it's
think
up to
it's
Blackwell
me
what he
left
does.
in the chapel about to get torn to pieces by this mob. Or at least not actively seeking an exit. So is Lillian, so you're not up at the altar, right?
No. I followed Fisher and Alvarado.
In that case, storyteller, is it just me and the Padre?
Yeah, at the base of the altar, it is.
Sure. So I'm gonna drag him to his feet and do the whole in Spanish, just tell them to get back, and I'll very obviously have the pistol pointed at him. Is there any reaction from the crowd?
Yeah, it's not friendly.
Well, but no, see that I expected, but have they actually stopped advancing?
No.
Oh,
The fact that they can now, when he fell back and they hadn't actually seen the shot, there was a little room for uncertainty, but everyone can smell the gun smoke. And now that
Right.
you've hefted him up and his blood is spilling over your arm and his head is lolling, they're not worried that you're going to hurt him.
Fair.
And they
miscalculated.
they feel that you are a very, very bad person. So nobody's taking a shot at you because you are between them, but they are moving center aisle and the sides, and they have
Right.
both. They have shotguns, they have rifles, they have literal pitchforks.
Am I able to drag him with me and sort of maneuver in the general direction that everyone else was headed? Albeit obviously at a slower pace.
What's your dex like?
My dex is a 65.
Yeah, and your strength is significant
75.
too.
Right.
Yeah, you can move him.
Sure.
And that might slow them down a little bit out of uncertainty.
Sure.
And yeah.
I think that's going to be my plan. Is to move in the direction I saw everyone else headed to, but keeping the rapidly exsanguinating priest between me and the crowd.
Right. All right. I don't have a schematic for this church.
Oh boy.
I wasn't expecting a chase scene behind the altar, I'll be honest with you. But the door that he went through, there is clearly a stairwell. There are doors, and we're not going to play let's make a deal. There's a doorway that's probably still open with a tight spiral stairwell that goes up. That's obviously the belfry.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of cabinet doors, and there's sort of a little back room, And then there's a stairwell that goes down that is also a spiral and fairly tight. And that's it. There's no obvious door to the outside world.
Hmm.
And you guys who have fled ahead of Spencer have that sense. So, I mean, there are windows. You could try to smash your way out, but you might feel a little besieged. Trying to run out of this village at night as like the only strangers. I mean, maybe, but if you get to camp, what, you know,
What then?
They know where we are.
they know where you are.
I mean, can we like I don't want to throw Blackwell under the bus, but maybe he did. It's not. The priests seem pretty unhappy with us, though, right? Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, and I don't want to go back to that camp because the priest clearly thinks that something is terribly amiss at this point.
Do we have any idea where the priest was going to be taking us? Like, did he give any indication of the direction he was going?
Thom, you're muted.
Oh, I wasn't saying anything. I was saying that was the whole point. He killed him before we ever found out.
Well,
He's not dead.
He's not dead.
He was like starting to turn direction right before he got shot.
He was going through the door that you entered,
Right.
which has up, down, and a closed back sort of dressing room and storage area.
So
I'm in survival mode. We just need to survive this night.
Yeah.
We can figure the rest out in the morning. You said there are windows back here?
The sort of, yeah, there are windows, you know, stairwell windows, not very big. The priest's private chamber that is, you know, again, there's storage and there's a place to change. There's a couch and yeah, the vestry. It has some regular apartment-sized windows that are fancier because it's a church, but not that fancy.
But not a door into his house?
No, they probably were built at separate times.
Oh, okay.
And it's stone, so you don't just...
If there's a window, I'll smash it, climb out the window. Or open it if it's an openable one.
Better
You
idea.
smash one, somebody opens theirs.
I feel like
no,
the
it's-
politeness of the escape.
It's
If it's stained glass, it won't be easy because it'll be leaded.
leaded.
Yeah.
Yeah, these aren't decorative, but it's leaded ancient glass. I have one. How do we feel about going over a minute? Because we're approaching the 2-hour point.
Yeah, we're cool.
I'm good.
But I think this is the final episode. If we've got, you know, and we started a little bit late. So do you want to take a 5-minute break and we'll see it through?
Come back and finish it. Yeah.
Sure.
Sounds good.
We are at that always promising juncture where the keeper asks for a group luck roll.
dear.
Who's got the worst luck?
I'm at 60.
Spencer's bets.
I'm
Okay.
at 57.
I'm at 40.
I'm at 30.
All right.
Oh,
Finley.
sounds like Fisher.
Come on. New pair of shoes. I see a 2. 32.
Tantalizing.
Oh, it's so close.
Tantalizingly close. And again, the alternate mechanic where you can spend sanity for luck, I think we should play test that. I think it's funny. So we had two people intending to try to break leaded windows to get out of the vestry. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
I'm
If you
going to
have hard
assume, Lillian, that you think of a smart way to do that because you have appropriate skills. So there's probably a metal-based lamp in there so that rather than punching old glass
I don't want to do that.
or putting a blanket over it and, you're just going to take the heaviest, flattest thing and smash. Okay? The windows aren't low. It's not like they're not, they're far from French doors, and they're not particularly meant for egress and exit. So there's,
Little
you
squeaky.
can start to make your way out. Dr. Alvarado, I think you need to roll idea to not hurt yourself or just get frustrated trying to break these thick old windows.
I got a 66. What is that? Idea? Yeah, that's a pass.
Okay, so you're both maybe moving furniture and beginning the process of getting
Take my
out of the
jacket
windows.
and use it to smash through tear out the lead.
And once you've got some panes out, then it is malleable and you can start to do it. So you guys manage to open the windows without further damaging yourself. And then, yeah, furniture and climbing out one at a time. So Fisher, Cartwright, and Outhwaite, you're going to exit through the windows behind them? Is that your intention?
Yeah, I guess.
With much haste, yes, please.
And Spencer, I'm going to give Father Ruben a roll for his. Are you trying to move him in a way that's going to help him stay alive, or are you just dragging him out of the way so that the villagers don't see you with him?
I mean, they know I have him, right? Like I just stood him up in front
They,
of the.
yeah, they saw you pull him away.
Jesus, Finley. Sorry. No, it's a tough question. Is there a moment where I can pause and talk to him, or is it just?
Yeah? I
we're-
mean,
we're at a dead
again,
sprint.
when you pulled him out through the back door, that definitely the tide of approaching villagers that was picking up speed
Right.
paused a minute at that to kind of communicate. Also, Ana Ramirez is in the back of the church talking to villagers, and there's some other conversation happening back there.
Are they leaving her alone? Am I able to tell?
It doesn't. It looks like that's a conversation. It doesn't look like an assault.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So is the man conscious?
He's woozy.
Uh,
If you like give him a moment
Yep.
and talk to him directly, he will focus his eyes.
Come on, over here. I am way out of my depth. My only context for this is Penny Dreadfuls. Were you about to sacrifice me to this thing?
You have sacrificed us all. She has been unleashed and not appeased. And his blood, of course, sliding out. He says, the fool Meisner.
If he's talking, can I start doing first aid?
Yeah,
Okay,
although he's not going to be talking while you're doing first aid.
that's fine with me. The fact that he's willing to exchange information after I put a round in him is okay. An 11,
Okay.
which is a hard, but not an extreme.
That's good. So, and he again, you get a better sense. You open his shirt, you get a better sense of the injury. In fact, the slug broke a couple ribs, but it doesn't appear to have gone very far, and you can
work it
remove
out
at
with
least
minimal
most of
screaming.
it,
Yeah.
and then really stop him from bleeding. And I mean, there's blood in his mouth, so there's some damage to his lungs, but it doesn't. You can tell that it's not collapse. So your first
Right.
aid is less about giving, maybe he gets that one hit point back, but you're stabilizing him a little bit and getting a sense of what's possible.
This is combat first aid, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever Meissner did must be undone. Whatever he spoke must be unspoken.
How do you unsay words? That's not a thing that can happen.
You must ask someone wiser than yourself.
Fair. I'm gonna look at him and say, really sorry about that. You, like I said, a little bit out of my depth. Do you think that the villagers are going to be able to help you?
The rites are secret, and I don't know what he did. What did he speak? How did he break the seal?
Is you Father, you were asking the wrong guy. Unfortunately, I was not there.
Ask the right guy.
Well, I, ha I will. How do I get out of here? And I'll go to court over this. I just want to make it to tomorrow.
Did Meissner leave papers?
Yes. Something about a book of Enoch, Enoki, something like that.
Leave me find what he did. Blood on his teeth, his
Yep.
tongue's rolling around.
I'm going to pull. Can I use my treasured possession? I'm going to pull a silver flask out of my vest pocket. It's beaten to hell, and across the front of it is a list of everyone in Spencer's battalion from the First World War, and every single one has been gouged off the silver with a line, except for him. And he takes a knife and he does the same sort of gouging over his own name, and he puts it in the Padre's hand, and he says, "Last drink's on me." And I'm
Love
going to
it.
try and find a way out of here.
Okay.
I can't, unfortunately, I can't unshoot the man.
If-
But he also didn't seem, now that we're talking, immediately ready to have me killed. So I got to do something.
So you've been dragging him toward the others who are fleeing into the night. Lillian and Philippe were the first people to. It's actually, of course, it's a bigger drop from the window to the ground than it was from the floor to the window. So it's
Right.
super awkward as you get out. And well, you're not surprised. There are some villagers standing around
Oh, yeah.
the back of the church too. And they have torches and they have guns. They're not as big a crowd as the one that was pressing to the church, but they didn't leave you to make your way. So while you're figuring that out, and meanwhile, like Roland's got a leg through one of the windows and he's trying not to cut himself as he squeezes by. Finley's squeezing his camera equipment, and you're looking at these hard-faced, withered people with hats on, and they're just silent and they're standing in ranks. Spencer lays the Padre onto the couch in the vestry, and the Padre takes a little. Is it whiskey in the flask?
Oh yeah, it's Scotch.
Yeah. He pours a little on his chest wound and makes a face. And says, find the
Words.
words. And also by this point, of course, well, the townsfolk are coming in the back of the church as well, but Ana Ramirez is with them, and Hugh, and what's his name? The foreman has suffered some small injury,
yeah.
Anders, but is okay. He's like holding his arm, and there's a little bit of a crowd, and Ana says, "Go ahead."
I had grabbed Hugh, and brought him
Oh
with.
yes, you had been. Yeah, we had been tugging Hugh along, but I'm not sure you got Hugh out the window. But right, you had borne him with. I forgot.
As the crowd piles in, I'm going to hold the gun out butt first and just look at Anna and say, find Dr. Alvarado. He needs to undo what Meissner did. I can help, but I also understand if they have other ideas.
Anna introduces you to the mayor, who's the better dressed fellow representing the villagers in town. And she gives him the gun, not unreasonably, and he says, whatever crime your German friend did, it's night and the festival is the next night, and we have no time. If we do not undo it, it won't be only this village that's destroyed. The mother will swell out of the earth as she did in ancient days. You have to say the thing correctly. You have no time. But she lives back here beneath the church when she is at home.
Ah, of course. I did not happen to see which direction Alvarado went today.
Well, the good news is that nobody who went out got far. So there's a ring of village people.
Right. Get out of my head. I didn't think I was thinking it that loudly.
There's a ring of people with torches, and there's this, and the sense of general menace is significant. I would like a luck roll, please, from Dr. Alvarado.
28 out of 40.
Fine.
Nice.
So everything, all the papers that you had collected and the knife and things are in your satchel, and you did not leave them in a panic or have them torn out the window. That's good. If the mayor and Anna lean out the windows and say, you must come in and try to undo Meissner's ritual, do you feel compliant or as though they're insane?
Oh,
Both?
I've gone out the window, and you say, even though I went out the window, they'd already surrounded the church.
Like
So there was probably
there's a tiny, like mostly shrubby
Right.
churchyard behind it with a low fence and some graves, and then there's just people around it.
So my first reaction would have been to start babbling in uh, my equivalent of Menorcan, which is just Spanish, and then from the dialect, I say things. But I'm like, please, don't kill us. It was not our fault. And when I realized that they are not going to kill us, and then I hear that from Anna and the mayor, I will go back. Because I'm like, okay, they're not going to kill us. They need us to do something. So I go back. And I point at Lily and I say, she did it. She did it. No.
Burn the witch.
She's an engineer. She has an education. No. So I go back. See, what do you mean? What do you mean? You want me to undo what?
The mayor's going to be the spokesman for the most part.
Okay.
Because Father Ruben is
right,
not. And you get helped back into the window. Even there's probably some peasants pushing you.
I just go around.
I don't know that they're going to break ranks to let you make that choice.
All right. And I assume the mayor's got a little more education, so he's probably speaking Spanish.
Well, he speaks a beautiful Castellano, but he's not. What he's saying is like, I've never understood this. Most of the village doesn't understand this, right? He's a good Catholic, but there's also a tradition, and they know the rite. This is a sacred place. And before the church was here, it was a sacred place. And before that church, it was a sacred place. And there's a duty. And your little German maniac learned some secrets or some bastard ideas of them. And they're in his books or his notes or you heard it or something, but we have to, the same thing that she...
Does the priest also have the rituals? How do they perform it each year? Is that the festival?
The ritual is not about releasing her. What we do here is appease her.
See,
the thing that he did, we don't know.
Well,
Are we all together? Sorry.
we have shoveled you back all into the vestry so that you
All right.
can have a
As
conversation.
He broke the seal, right? Like, what are we dancing around? There's the thing in the place, like, they were talking about it being a seal, so he probably, I don't know, did he just read the words on the seal? What? We don't know what it says.
Finley, the book. Remember those weird books you had me carry?
the Book of Ibon, yeah.
This one? A book?
Alvarado, I think, DM, correct me if I'm wrong. The priest said that what we needed to know was in there. His notes were in there.
Yeah.
Well,
The priest is hoping. I mean, Meissner did something that the priest doesn't have access to.
you appease it, but do you have this written down? Do you have this? Do you understand the ritual, or is it in a language?
I think the more important question is, how do you appease it during your festival?
Well, what I'm getting at is language is not just written words; it's also pronunciation. And I didn't understand what Meissner was saying, But if I have the Book of Ibon and I have something else that's also effective, I might be able to figure out the pronunciation
Can I?
and put the
I'm
thing
gonna
back.
I'm gonna walk out of the confessional booth at this point and say, "Don't you remember the bone dancer un? It had un. It was in brackets. Maybe if you un the thing, it
Elihu
will."
Outhwaite, who has the strangest hearing of any man known to time and space, walks out of the confessional, and a peasant immediately turns and fires a shotgun at him, startled
Oh.
by the. Will, as things calmed down, Elihu made his way toward the vestry and became part of the conversation. He did not startle a villager by emerging abruptly from the confessional box and then get, I mean,
Is the
bifurcating
priest
into
ever going to come to the confessional and hear my confession? So I want to. I mean, there are some people that say pronouncing something backwards undoes it, but I need the material. I need to look. I need to see, and if there's more material that the village has, I want to see it all.
I do. Father Ruben may know secrets that I do not, but he's gravely ill and struggling to survive. What I'm telling you is that we don't have a ritual to release the mother. We
Right.
have a ritual to appease the mother.
Oh.
And
what
You
is
don't
that
have one
ritual?
to-
What do
Is
you
it in
do?
the same language?
He doesn't have one to restrain.
I understand, but is it in the same language? Is it in Phoenician?
the ritual with which we appease the mother is not linguistic, sir.
Okay, that answers my question then. I need to look these things over and I need to figure it out. The problem that Meisner may have run into is that his pronunciation may have been all completely wrong. Nobody's spoken Phoenician for 7,000 years.
No one has told us what you saw.
Oh, Meisner took us down into that cave, and there was a great stone with Phoenician writing all over it. And he beckoned us to continue forward, but we wanted to leave and come back later. And as we left, he recited something and then threw his arms out, and this gelatinous blob grabbed him and ate him. He disintegrated in front of our eyes.
He's a greater fool than Father Ruben thought. He thought that the mother's embrace would give him something. Mother's embrace generally only takes away.
Just consumes.
Did you see what he was carrying?
I don't know that he was carrying anything, but if it was it a knife? We have the knife.
No, we don't. The knife. Oh, well, we'd like to see that knife.
I'll hand it to the mayor.
Yeah,
And he just scanned it.
no, he swiftly swivels and plunges it right into Spencer's forehead.
Appropriate.
This is not an Alex game. Yeah, he takes it reverently, and he's not going to give it back to you. It's very clear. Like, that blade is gone. There's no, he should have had,
Wait,
he
am I
might
actually
have,
dead?
no.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm sorry,
I
I've
must have
been
missed something
splitting up side universes of sarcasm. I'll stop doing that. Confusing. I would have had you roll to dodge after all.
I appreciate it.
But he does
was just
take
kind
the
of
knife.
like
He
That
takes the
works.
knife.
Right. Yeah.
He takes the knife and it's wrapped up and he wraps it back up and he probably hands it to somebody.
We won't need that.
We have others. That's a lovely one. No, we need to know the great stone seal was cracked.
Yes.
Finley, do you have your pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the rubbings or whatever copies we made. He'll pull those out and show them.
Right. You haven't had the opportunity to do your little magic box negatives on
Right,
those.
exactly. So he would have. It
But
would have had
he'll
to been
take
a
your
copy.
word for it if you get a sketch of the written Phoenician,
Right.
Right.
and you say that's cracked, then the mayor is also there's her hunger is absolute. She's been satisfied with our offerings all this time, and this.
Tell us the truth. What is it that you give her? Do you sacrifice somebody?
Sacrifice, offering,
Children?
what was his name? Copper.
Copper.
She must eat. And
Sacrifice
because we feed her, she is satisfied until she's summoned, until someone calls her, until someone breaks a seal and invites her back. It's not this island that will die. She won't be done. You have to solve this. You did this. You foreign monkey chits. Fix it. And Batman, pointing to Spencer, will be the first in the pit.
I'm going to go talk to, that was a legitimate cough. I'm going to go talk to the priest if I can get anything out of him.
Dr. Alvarado, we need to start translating.
We don't know
man's
what to do.
Figure out the seals. I don't know that any of us can read what was on the seal, but Meisner, it has to have something to do with the crack and it's not whole.
Let me see what the priest says. He might know.
I mean,
Translating Phoenician's not easy.
We have your books. All right. I'm going to start looking through this book of Ibon while you're doing the talking, but Flip, is there anything? Blue, looking for blue.
Engineer, cartographer, archaeologist. While these arguments are taking place, you're feeling claustrophobic in this weird church with pretty sullen local people who you can't easily communicate with. Do you have any intentions?
My intention was to try to sneak out of here because I think everyone here is absolutely crazy and has lost their minds.
Fair enough.
I haven't seen the thing. Everyone's gone crazy here.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead, Elihu.
I was just gonna say we have the paper that said the thing about bone dancer. So I'm gonna look those words up in the dictionary.
You're gonna start pouring through the Phoenician lexicon and try to.
Yeah.
Good.
Roland was initially thinking that he needed to go and see what was in the basement until the mayor just said what he said. He would probably be looking for a way to get out, but feeling a little overwhelmed by the odds. He doesn't want to press his luck. So he's more than likely just kind of standing around there until there's a call to action.
I'm going to ask the priest. The stone is cracked. How do we fix the stone?
This, of course, is a bit of a process because the guy is struggling to remain conscious. But
I patched him up. He's fine.
You gave back 1 point.
Yeah. Out of what might well have been a fatal injury for a less fit fellow.
How do we fix the stone?
He the whatever he did to defile it is
Undoable?
an opening and a closing have a relationship, but I don't have the tradition that he used. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll come back. Fisher, give me that book. What language is the Book of Ibon in?
The one
That we
facsimile that Meissner was dealing with is a Latin version.
Okay,
You're competent in that.
I'm competent in Latin.
And he has annotated pages, and there are, slips of paper and so on, but it isn't trivial, of course.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that there's a lot of fluff, so I'm going to see if I can sort of identify the fluff and skip past it. And I'm looking for some ritual to break a seal. I might start to encounter words that are used even in Latin that are archaic in Latin because they're being drawn from the Phoenician.
I'm going to ask for an idea roll on top of that plan.
Okay. 001.
Wow, that's some ideas. It's a pile of idea-ness.
Damn. That's a clutch roll.
And this is your field, right? Linguistics is comparative language. And so you're thinking about the fact that you have too much text at the same time.
Right.
And so what you want to do is find comparative things. You want to find the uncommon, when you want to search a document, you look for the one instance of
something odd,
of something unusual. Sorry, 1 moment. So what you realize is that there is in the Phoenician that Meissner glossed in that text partially, there are other phonemes that aren't clearly words. And again, it's only consonants, not vowels. And you've got B, S, tet, L. And you start looking for unusual in his notes in the Book of Ibon, wherever he made a mark or left a piece of paper in between pages. And you find a larger text. And it's a 4th century incomplete ritual document that refers to something called Bodhisattva.
Okay.
And so you've got you've got materials that you can start comparing to make to get the Latin into shape is going to take a minute, and you have to figure out what part of that text begins and ends
Right.
that might be relevant, and if it's if the Latin in the Book of Ibon is a summoning of that name, what would be the way to invert it? So you've got a little bit of academic thinking to do, but you've had a couple of strong roles and you've got materials you need. You've got
right.
your own background. You've got his notes, and there are jottings in there that, there's pencil notes that, like, if you give them a minute, they might make more sense. Although he's also got some drawings in there, and there's this. It's not. It would be great if you had a week to look
Right.
at this at a library for a paper, but it still smells like blood and gun smoke in here. There's, warm air through the broken glass and angry eyes upon you and a sense of desperation.
And also, does this offer me any insight into what's written on the stone? Now that I sort of know what genre of things I'm looking for, some spell in Phoenician concerning the Blue Mother or whatever, do things suddenly fall into place on the writing on the stone?
I think Outhwaite's who's pacing around and tugging at his hair a bit has convinced you that at least a chunk of what's on the stone is what is the text that you found in the book that he's annotated as well.
Okay.
So that's about the holy and the unholy and the bone dance. And they're different traditions, is what you, again, 001 linguist, like, this tradition is about the people who made the seal, and this tradition is about the thing that Meissner was up to.
Considering our sketches and or rubbings or whatever of the stone, is there something missing? Like Meissner shattered the stone and took something away so that the text is no longer complete. And maybe we'll just have to put the missing words back.
As far as you could tell, there weren't any meaningful chunks. There weren't any meaningful gaps.
Okay.
And given that you've been trying to bone up on what is known at this time about ancient Phoenician, it's a text that's written left to right and right to left, and
Sure.
sometimes up and down and back. They hadn't been formalized yet, and things like plural and opposite can be a little confusing. So his work on that was partially about uncertainties that are inherent to that block of letters.
Well, at the moment, despite this, I'm still not quite sure what we need to do. We need to recite something backwards. Do we need to repair something on the stone? And I look around at the others and I'm like, I don't know.
Is it a terribly long thing to say?
I don't think so.
I mean, that gives us if we're not quite sure, but we're pretty sure it's close to the opposite of what he said, we just keep saying stuff until it works, right? The only problem is this unbloodied part.
Have I got the thing from the Phoenician thingy where it's translated into
I'm
the
sorry.
words?
Have you got the thing from the Phoenician
Yeah,
thingy? Was
the translation from the lexicon of the paper is what I meant.
Of the stone?
No, of the paper that was in there that said the unbloodied.
do you physically have it? Do you mean?
Yeah.
I think that Dr. Alvarado has it. I mean, I think it's with us as a group.
Yeah, it's probably laid out here on the table that I'm working around.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is, could I get that into Phoenician?
Oh, I see. You can if you can convince Alvarado to pay attention to distract him, to break up his attention for a minute. And nobody, by the way, seems comfortable or relaxed. Like this, everyone. Oh,
Right.
somebody, the local medico is finally attending to the father, at least. The veterinarian has come in to try to do a little bit better work than Spencer did. And, there's more time. It's not an emergency slug removal. So
Did a pretty
maybe.
good job.
You didn't do a bad job. But yes, but my answer to you is that the text that you are both correct in that the text that has the and plurals is the body of the text from the basalt monument that was broken.
So instead of the positive of the word, we put the negative of the word.
Yeah, I would think that Finley was right that the one that has restrained, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's what if I was trying to restrain something and I had a certain phrase that I needed to say, that's what I would write on the thing, like a sign on it, right? Like I just say, hey, keep saying this and don't stop. So if we just say what's on the tablet, we shouldn't have to do any flipping and flopping. That's my theory.
Are we going to have to go to the stone?
Probably. I have to imagine that there's one of two places we need to be, either at the stone or down in the basement here, and I'm not sure we want to go down in the basement here.
Oh, we're going down to the basement.
Apparently we're going down to the
That's where
basement.
we're going to have to do it.
That's what the mayor says.
Oh, great.
We're if you had followed Father Ruben down to the basement instead of trying to murder him, we would be farther from the end of everything than we are.
Let's go down to the basement. Perhaps there's something we don't understand yet.
You can stay here and sit, you and the nervous one, pointing to Finley.
Oh no.
That's fair.
And the rest of you, I will begin to try to show you what I do not understand, but what the father would have shown you if you had not immediately resorted to violence.
Go. We don't have time.
No, we do not. Do your work. You, come. And he points at Spencer and then waves at Elihu, and then he looks around as if noting an absence.
As he does that, I'm going to go, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Shake everybody's hands.
Don't be so dramatic. There's probably just a priest down there wanting to give you a ham sandwich. Don't shoot him.
Oh, Doc.
Meanwhile, in the still night and under the bright of the moon, Lily Dupree has snuck away and begun the long march toward the distant port where there's no ship expected for days. But there's a radio on the way. You can try to check in.
I will.
When you breach the rise to the little valley in which the camp is based, before your face becomes transparent momentarily, roll a spot hidden.
Of course. No.
Good, fine. Do you want to stop at your tent and pick anything up, or do you want to try the radio out? The little string of lights is still up that you left.
Is the port okay? So the port is there's not another port, just the port we came in on. Is that?
I mean, the place you landed is the closest to this.
Okay.
And it's not a port. It's just a place where it's just a little bay where people can stop outside.
Okay, I thought maybe there was a port in the town as well. Okay.
No,
then if that was the closest port, then yes,
you're inland. You could try to go, there's a real port, but it's rather farther to the west.
Yeah, I didn't really want to go back to the campsite.
Okay. If I presumed unfairly, you could head another direction when you snuck out. You
Yeah, if I didn't know, so if the only port I was aware of was the campsite port, I'm just going in the opposite direction. I don't want to be at the campsite. I don't want to be at the church. I just want to be away from all of this madness.
Fair enough. You are not a cartographer. You probably didn't look at escape routes, but you are. It's pretty obvious to an engineer what's a wide path and a narrow path and an animal path and so on. And you can get, because you're more or less on the spine of the island, you have some idea of where the Mediterranean is in both ways. So it looks like there's a bigger village if you go east, but you're closer to the water if you go south on a smaller path.
I'll take the smaller path.
She took the path less trodden.
Ah.
Okay, we'll leave it there for now. It's a slow. I mean, these things are happening in there, and you're just in the moonlight trying to step on a snake or whatever. The steps downstairs from the little hallway behind the altar and before the vestry, they start out wood, as most of the church is, or most of the inside of the church is, and then they reach stone after about 8 feet, and it becomes quite a well. The only light is whatever light people bring, and it smells like the cave, except a lot more. And it gets close soon. And the mayor is sort of behind the group of you, and there are a couple of villagers scattered in there too. And I don't think Spencer's been disarmed, right? Oh no, you handed it away. That's right.
Yeah, I handed it over.
So the mayor's got your Webley, and it's not a hostile procession exactly, but it's solemn and it's urgent. And you go down to a full basement, and nothing really opens up, and the stairs get a little wider and a lot older. So you've got that stone that's been so long trodden that it's a little bit treacherous because it cups toward the edge.
Right.
It's been rubbed against so many times. And some of the villagers passed down a light, and then torches are lit. And it opens into a stone room that's 30 feet, roughly 30 feet, and roughly circular. And it's very old stone. And it's it's kind of patchwork. It's not all the same kind of stone. And you realize, for example, that chunks of it are also basalt, like the object in the previous cave. Roland, if you hadn't noticed before, it strikes you that that has to have come from. There's no basalt on this island. The effort in moving that kind of matter this distance at this age is weird. And there's so the circular room is round stone, and one of the fellows goes around and lights torches in the walls, and they're smoky pitch torches. But there's plenty of room for that to go up. And there are smaller niches in the stone wall, even tiny ones. There's proper niches and there's just little gaps between the fitted stone, and all of them have exactly the kind of figure that Blackwell was afraid to see in the priest's lounge. There's little, the ancient German Venus,
Yep.
who sort of barely has a head and then has two bosoms and a big belly and little legs. There's things like that, except they have a lot more bosoms. There's like tall, thin, gaunt figures that are draped that fit in sort of crevices. And there's a very old but more recent wrought iron 2-ish foot fence that's around another 10 or 12 foot recess in the stone in the center. And as the torches are lit, you can see down into that pit, and it's that oceanic blue-gray matter, and it bubbles and it sends up little tendrils, and then they collapse into it again, and it sloshes of its own volition.
Oh.
And the mayor says, "The mother has been under this island and the sea from time immemorial, and this place has been sacred to her. Everything she touches burns, but we come from her, and we have always known this. And we worship her, but we don't ask her for things, and we would not let her loose upon the world as once she was. And you have. And Spencer, we don't have alertness in this. I guess I'll give you Dex.
May I ask what for?
To notice whether 3 people are going to try to kick you into that pit.
I have a take on that, but yeah, let me roll this first. Well, they're gonna have to beat a 15 because I guess I get to be dramatic tonight.
Okay.
So as they move to kick me in, whoa, gentlemen, I already said that I would handle this. Now, Alvarado.
We left Alvarado upstairs.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. It's just me down here?
The mayor can translate for you.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have friends.
Sure.
But you're outnumbered.
Well, I'm not planning on fighting. That man upstairs can't figure it out. I just want you to know that this was pointless. And that you're decreasing manpower without having an out. But that is your call. I've been a dead man since the sob. Ask the priest about the flask. So, this isn't anything worse than what I see every time I close my eyes. So, gentlemen, It's been a pleasure. He snaps off a salute and takes a step back into the pit.
Lovely stuff. You fall, and when you hit the fluid, it's not water. It's dense. You bounce a little bit. You smack into it. It's not,
Ew.
and then it sort of lurches up to embrace you, and then it curdles and roils
Before-
up.
Before
Yes.
I die, can I get last words?
You have, yeah, last word.
I hope I give you the shits.
Always respect to the mother. That's the theme. So the fluid slaps and curls around you, and you feel ruptured and dissolved at the same time. And there's a little tower of the bones of you, and as she wraps around, she'll get to the bones eventually, but she does all the flesh first. And so there's a minute where you have a little dance on the top of this spume, and then it collapses back into the chamber or the pit and swirls and spits. That'll be sanity rolls for the investigators who are present.
Yes.
Fail. I mean, my sanity's already so low.
You're already a pretty fragile guy.
I thought they kept you upstairs.
Nope.
No,
Oh,
that's
sorry, not that I get to object at this point, but you know. Actually, like out of the slime.
Brave
Finley, you're
Mr.
okay?
Finley is what.
So Elihu, just a 1d4. It's not the first time
Alright.
you've seen this. You've been on this rodeo.
Oh, but I think I took 3, but I think that might put me past my point of no return.
Oh, he's indefinite. Well, you've already exhibited a desire for self-harm. So I think that we're going to keep you in that vein. It doesn't mean that you're going to try to grab a firearm or jump into the pit, but you might look for opportunities to make it, but you didn't want to get dissolved, is the thing. You wanted another way out. So
Death
That's-
drive has overtaken me.
you've got a death drive, but you're not in love with the slime. You've got this tension where you've got a really easy way out. So, Alvarado,
Yes.
do you think you have a structural idea of what it means to counter you? You remember, oh, I don't want to make everything dice, but let's have an idea roll as a basis to see.
27.
You remember that Elihu had this curious look on his face when he was handed the obsidian blade.
Mhm.
And you realized that what he was realizing was that it was bloodied, that in the little pocks on the handle, that in the small spaces that don't wipe off right away, there was blood that was not old. And that leads you to the notion that the comments in the translation that Meissner made about the seal being bloodied, is that he ruptured that stone by sacrificing Kleinschmidt on it.
Yeah, I suspected that.
You had been working on these theories, and it comes together with when the text makes sense to you. That was a small offering, And to counter it will require a larger offering. But you have an idea of a ritual, and you have some text to try. So, armed with that, you can descend and attempt a ritual to bind the mother. It's in game terms, we're looking at the magic points that are required and the power that's required.
Okay. So not necessarily that I have to push 20 people into the pit.
Well, the thing is, you'll get all their magic points if they're consumed. That's kind of how Kleinschmidt got that. You don't have to offer up your magic if you're offered up. In this case.
All right. So I'll go down there, and I noticed that Spencer's gone. Where's Mr. Spencer? Oh, the pit. Okay, now this is all starting to make sense to me. I'm saying this in Spanish, Menorcan sort of. I'll talk to the mayor, and he says, here's the thing. I think I understand how this works. I can combine this ritual in order to seal the breach. We'll have to find a way to repair the stone afterwards. But in order...
And the mayor interrupts for a minute. He's like, I'm glad you're making progress. I'm not sure you understand. We don't have any time to be wrong. The height of her power is tomorrow. Yeah. Already, I'm sure there are no sheep left in the hills. He freed her. She's out.
I understand. Dancing. Oh, Jesus.
If you could say the words, we are ready. As your people are ready, and the foolish one already gave himself to slow her hunger. And there's people coming down the stone stairs, and they're passing out black robes. Again, they're not super elaborate. They're just like
allow me a moment. I need to speak to the mayor alone, or at least quietly. So I'm going to whisper into his ear. I don't want you to sacrifice my people. But even if you do, it's not enough. We need more people. At least a dozen.
As I not in every she takes offerings in seasons, and sometimes it is not a whole person, but a few people come and they are weakened and then they recover. So I will bring in as many of the strong villagers as I can, and a whole we will try. If we have the words right, then she might be appeased. If we do not, she will take this half of the island before morning, and the rest of it in the week.
Have only the one chance. But let the two young ones go. They're young. They don't deserve to die yet.
Oh, well, yeah, the brave one. Does she like the English guy? Weird.
I don't know, maybe. But they deserve to at least have lives. And if we fail, we fail.
If we fail, none of us have lives. So
right.
They can start upstairs, but the procession might be great.
All right.
The more accurately you can do this, I think, the less it will need. But I am secular, but I'm local. My family has been involved forever, but not. We don't get secret rituals are secret.
I need you to decide. You're the mayor. You know these families.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and he runs the stairs and sends a 14-year-old local boy up with a message, and so people there's milling about. He's calling for the old and infirm who are willing to
Go. Okay. All right. I'm ready to begin when you are.
It's just after midnight. So how many magic points are each of our PCs willing to offer up? We've already got all of Spencer's.
So that's a total of 11.
I've got 12 before I start taking hit points of damage. I'll probably have to sacrifice all 12.
Don't you go unconscious once you lose all your magic points?
No. You start taking hit points of damage when you go over.
Yeah, magic crosses over to hit. And as the priest in this case, you're going to take the SAN hit.
Yeah.
And you might want to leave yourself a magic point before you go to hit points because of that issue. So we'll call that 11.
Okay.
Lillian has just found a charming little bower on the side of a pathway where she can see the Mediterranean in the moonlight. It's very bright and lovely. There's a little fenced off area where she sees some lambs napping in a little cluster. It's very pretty.
Does sound nice. Actually, if I feel at peace here, I might just sit down for a minute and just rest.
You probably took a little bit of that cheese that Philippe got in the market yesterday. Have a little
Sounds good.
Meanwhile, back underground, back under the dark church.
Goodbye, Grandpa.
Passing on the old folks.
I can give 13 magic points. I'll give them all.
Roland will give 11. It's not all. I have a feeling that we may need some at the end.
Dr. Alvarado, I heard what you said. You could have included more people in that. The blood is draining out of him.
I wanted to let you all go, but I didn't think they would let you go.
You gotta work in from a place of power.
Yeah, I don't think I see this as giving up to the blob because I'm not actually getting thrown in there, hopefully. So I'll just give half, so like 7.
Okay. It's very much not giving it to the blob. It's not being sure the blob will get you. So that's something.
Yeah. Okay, well in that case I'll give 13. I'll give all of them. Because you're right, yeah. It's preventing the blob from getting out. So and I'll even give hit points. I'll give like 3 hit points.
59. All right. Plus 3 is 62. So
Getting there.
there are more robes and there are more torches, and it's getting very pitchy down here. And there's sort of sub chants in probably Menorca, local spoken talismans that have developed over time. And even once in a while, as Alvarado starts to chant this,
Yeah.
Please.
No, sure.
Parts of it start to ring familiar to locals because while they haven't ever done this spell, they've been doing rituals that involve these names and these formulae for generation upon generation. And so the sound of it begins to build and thrum, and the fluid vibrates, pulses and spurts and roils. And we currently have 62 points out of a possible 99 to be successful. As the fever mounts, actually the priest comes down the stairs with assistance, and he is able to match Alvarado's voice surprisingly powerfully, although he's clutching his chest. He's going to add 72, and he's bringing it up to 72, that is. So, Alvarado, roll the success of your spell at a test of 72.
77.
Perfect. So what that means is we're going to push it if you're
Okay.
interested in doing so. And
Yep.
I mean pushing it. We
Haven't
need,
survived. I
we
mentioned
need, no, we need to get some people in that vat. We're pushing.
it. Okay.
We're giving up some magic points fully, the hard way. And your eyes are like only the whites are visible. Like your arm, yeah, 100%. It's entered you and you are channeling it, and it's awful, but somebody needs to go in the hole.
Old people in the hole. Old people in the hole. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That was loud.
So the spirit is moving them. There's people are doing, yeah. And so you see this toothless pensioner clamber over the little iron fence and throw himself in, and it swirls and his bones spit up and fall back in. There were coins in his pockets that splash in, and a weeping lady helps her blind sister in, and they fall in and are consumed. And there is a shudder that is violent enough for Lillian to hear it 1.5 miles away. The ground rolls, and inside the cellar of the church, your ears all pop as she sucks down farther into her subterranean caverns for the moment, and all the air goes with her, and all is still.
We're probably exhausting everybody who's lost all their magic points.
Yeah. The celebration planned for tomorrow evening is going to be very different.
I clutch the priest's hand. He's still there. And I'm like, you have to teach me.
Too few know, and you cannot forget. We have a lot of work to do to repair all of this.
I'm already a Catholic. And I'm not married.
I think that we have at least closed the seal, if not completed it. And so, the aftermath, Lillian Dupree makes it to port early the next afternoon with her little bindle stiff and most of her sanity intact. And the rest of you have to stay through the following night's celebration/ceremony. But actually, they don't do as many goats or old people this year because there's been a completion of sorts. Dr. Alvarado is entering into communication with the local diocese, which has a little bit of a secret.
And I'm going to brush up on my Menorcan. I'll have it in a couple weeks completed.
When you go back down into the cavern, the basalt block is no longer cracked. It has been restored. And in the slimy bones that fell down on the inside of that chamber is the idol that Meister had in his pocket.
Ah.
The little blue Venus that he was carrying on his person as a true believer, although an erroneous one. And survivors will have a lot of therapy ahead of them.
Oh, that was excellent.
That was very good, David.
Thank you.
No
So
therapy
did we
can
have the
cure
whole
this.
picture? Did we miss anything?
What happened to Cook and
They're
Copper?
sacrificed.
Oh yeah, they put him in the pit.
The cook was genuinely going to town for onions, and Copper was using it as cover because he was suspicious and wanted to get word out. But when they asked for burros and wanted to get out of town, the priest was like, "Yeah, these people know too much," and so they went down to the cellar, into the well. They murder.
Who was sabotaging the dig site? Was it the locals?
No, it was Meissner.
Ah,
Oh, okay.
Meissner was anxious about your people following up. He was already working hard to cover up that he'd discovered more than he was letting on to his team.
he was shooting at us.
He was just, I mean, when you speculated that he might have forgotten that he'd been down there, not out of the question. Like, that guy had gone to such low sanity between what he'd read and what he'd found that at the point that he murdered his assistant and this great seal broke open, anything was possible. But even before that, he was keeping secrets because he had decided that he didn't think the locals, who he considered ignorant peasants, were worshippers, and he wanted to be the new high priest of this goddess. He wanted it for himself. So he was sneaking around and lying. He ended up being a short snack.
That was really good. Go ahead.
I was just gonna. So the light had nothing to do with it. It wasn't averse to light.
She doesn't like daylight.
Okay.
She's an underground thing, and essentially, so it's Ubosatla is what I was using, but I was using it pretty loosely. And you're right that she's kind of a slime mold. She's got an intelligence of 0, but she can build things. And like, the reason she likes bones is because she doesn't have any internal structure. So just for a second to believe, oh, this is what it's like to have a shape instead of just being blorping and slopping and smushing around. And she can be kind of digestive, that she can't eat metal. She can eat everything else. So that's her little gully where she just coughs up,
Cool.
So we were kind of right with the owl pellet analogy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Our players include. Oh, go ahead.
No.
Our players included Max Meltzer, Holly Buto, Gordon Lewis, Tyler Hudak, Nathan Decker, and myself, with David Gassaway as the keeper of arcane lore. We have a Discord server where you can chat with other members, you can set up private games, you can learn the finer arts of gameplay and game mastering. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Spotify, Podbean, or iTunes. Support for the show is provided by our patrons, who are listed in the closing credits. If you'd like to join them, please visit our Patreon page listed in the description. Or you can use Super Thanks by hitting the button just below the screen. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and punch the bell icon for updates on our latest shows. And leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answer any questions you might have. This is Thom Raley, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck, good gaming.